Okay, my beautiful friends, here we are, together again at last. What overwhelming joy. Alright, look, here we go. I really don't know where to start sometimes. You know, I don't script any of this. I sit down, I hit this stupid button, and I start talking. Alright, look, here's the deal. Right now, stock futures are higher across the board. It shouldn't be a surprise to you. The game remains, or the song remains the same. It's risk on. And let me ask you a question. How many of you out here are following earnings? Well, Morgan Stanley, windfall profits across the board, blowout earnings. For the most part, banks are doing exceedingly well. So maybe one of you can explain to me why the banks are being recapitalized. You remember Fed President Bullard said, the banks are demanding capital. Well, I bet you're demanding capital too. So let's see. The banks are demanding capital, so they're being recapitalized, and they're reporting, again, for the most part, windfall profits. Do you see a pattern here? Look, how many times has this guy told you that the banks are running the show? Everything else, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters here. The banks, the Federal Reserve, they are your overlords. Do you see an underlying theme here? You don't want to admit it. No one wants to admit it. But look, that's the banks are governing the world. They are ruling the world. Period. Let me ask you this while we're talking about it. So let's say, hypothetically, the Fed or the world central banks were pumping massive amounts of debt into the system right now. Again, most people, in fact, it's being reported, oh, this is QE4. No, this is QE6. Most people and most news outlets, even alternative ones, missed 4 and 5. This is QE6. As a matter of fact, look, quantitative easing has never ended, period, the end. I explained to you when they announced years ago, oh, QE is ending, it never ended. The Fed has been rigging the debt market since the collapse of 2008. They can't just say they're keeping rates low. They have to get into the market and make it happen, period. That's how it works. It's never stopped. But this new phase is epic, what they're doing now. They're admitting it. They're admitting that they're rigging the short end of the curve, suppressing rates, expanding to a greater degree their repo scam, buying medium-term debt, long-term debt. Let me ask you, if the Fed were not doing this right now, where do you believe the stock market would be? Where do you believe rates would be? Let me explain this to you very simply. Without the Federal Reserve doing what they are doing, nobody, and I've said this before, is smart enough to know the real value of debt. A world that is awash in debt, it's the only thing keeping this entire illusion real. And most people, they are so fixated on the stock market. Oh, wait a minute. Everything is great because the stock market is high. This is how they have people programmed and brainwashed. If people see stocks near all-time highs, they think everything is great. They don't look at the bigger picture. They don't say, well, if it were not for the action of central banks, your overlords right now, the overlords of government, the overlords of presidents, kings, queens, monarchs, I mean, they're like the evil force running the entire earth. And their goal is very simple. They want to own the world. This is why they are doing what they're doing, colluding with leaders around the world. Their goal is to put out as much debt as they possibly can to be the lenders and buyers of last resort. Henceforth, why banks are having windfall profits. Henceforth, why banks are being recapitalized right now with windfall profits. Don't you see this? There is still the faction out there who cannot see this going on. They don't see the collusion between governments around the world and their overlords, the central banks run by the same entities. It's an incredible situation. And people would rather sit in their little boxes and believe there's some greater situation going on here. Look, there is no way on this planet that central banks are going anywhere. Central banks, especially the Federal Reserve, is now the strongest, most powerful institution on earth. More powerful than the entire nuclear arsenal of the world put together. If they want to melt down the world, because we transact in their bills, in their fiat currency. The US dollar remains the world reserve currency. If the Fed wants to yank the chain and melt down the world, which they're going to foster the wealth transfer, that's what they're going to do. I don't know how many of you know your history. Probably not many. If you were to look at the parallels here between what is going on today and the Roaring Twenties with regard to the markets, you will be astonished. It's a setup here. It's always a setup, people. World central banks, the overlords, are serial bubble blowers. This is done on purpose, by design. Inflate bubbles, then all of a sudden yank the chain, pull the plug. All of the institutions, the banks short the market, and wealth is legally stolen from the masses and is transferred to the 1%. It's not going to change. As much as you might want it to, they are in control. You have no control. If you believe you do, then they are winning. You have no control, and you can't win. There's no way to do it. When you have world leaders, every one of them, around the world, who are being ruled or under the rule of their central bank, they are slaves. We have debt slaves, nation debt slaves. We're all slaves to the central banks because we transact in their currency. This is why you hear politician after politician screaming out against an alternative currency like a crypto or whatever it might be. You must comply. You must transact in their currency. This is how they win. And people are playing into it like the sheep that they are. It's an insane environment. And it's only going to get much worse for you. There's no doubt about it. Anyway, pay attention to these things. Understand what's going on around you. And again, I'll leave you off. Windfall profits for these institutions. Why are we being forced to recapitalize them? Why QE6 right now in this environment? If it were not going on, let me ask you, this is the end question right now. If the Federal Reserve were not pumping all this cash into the debt market, artificially suppressing rates, our president calling for lower rates right now, calling for dollar intervention, if this were not going on, where do you think the stock market would be? Where do you think rates would be? Do you think they would be where they are right now, artificially suppressed, people being robbed blind, not being able to earn anything? They're being robbed blind because the scam that is going on right now by the Federal Reserve and the President of the United States calling for lower rates is robbing them blind. They can't earn an actual rate of return on their interest-earning accounts that are earning less than the actual rate of inflation. But the banks are getting windfall profits. Does this sound good to you? Is this an environment that you want to be in right now? You really think this is just being done by accident, or is it by design? I'm out of here, getting pissed off as usual. But I do love all of you. Please share this video. Get it out there. See you later.